Good evening, Christian, Maria Fernanda, George.
Hello, good
Good
evening.
evening. Good evening.
Well, welcome to the encounter. It's a pleasure to meet you. I didn't have you in previous encounters or courses, so it's nice to have you in this course of research. Let's see. I'm gonna wait just 1 minute more and see if more students join us before we start.
Okay, perfect.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hey, Nikki, what's up?
Can you hear me well?
Teacher and everybody.
Diana, can I ask you something?
Sure. Tell me.
I don't know, but you look like familiar. I don't know if you worked at the Major Institute before. Have you? No.
Well, I worked at Colombo Americanos.
Okay.
Did you work there?
No, I worked at the Major Institute. I was a coordinator there for 14 years. But I don't know, Diana, but you
Well,
look familiar.
no, no.
Okay.
I probably have somebody who looks like me
Maybe you have
in
a
that
twin
place.
sister somewhere.
Yeah, well, but that's my father. Maybe Clara, Andres, George. Okay, ready. So we can start. Well, let me tell you that the purpose of this course is to help you to understand all the stages and all the parts of the final research paper that you have to write to graduate. Yes, so all of you have to, well, most of you have to write a research paper to graduate, and that research paper needs to be written in groups of 3 or 4 students. So the idea of the course is to explain to you all the parts of the paper, so you get to know what you have to do when you start a teacher practicum 1, right? So the first topic that you read is about how to find out a good research topic and how to write a research question, and that's what we're going to review today. I read your diaries and I noticed that most of you are teachers, have experience of many years. And that's very good because that's going to help you to decide on a topic. So what we are going to do is to review the problems that you found out and to see the questions and to try to fix some questions and see what are the characteristics of a good question. Right, so who would like to start? Because I have all the information here, but I would like some of you, or well, all of you, start by telling us like the context where you work, and then I will show here the problems that you find out and the questions that you wrote. So Christian, so where do you work and who are your students?
We cannot listen to you.
Now, is it better now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
better.
Okay, I'm currently working now at a school called Gimnasio Colombo Británico here in Guaymaral. I've been there now for 14 years. This year I'm working with 4th grade students. Most of them are for like a B2 level. But as you saw my diary, there's some inconvenience. If you're gonna show, that's mine. Oh yeah, this is mine.
Yeah.
So those are my possible research questions. Do you want me to read them or what?
Well, there was something that I found out in most of the diaries of some of you who are teaching in immersion schools or who have some experience, and is that you notice that the policies at the school don't match don't match the way or what the school pretends for teaching and learning do not match their policies. I mean, schools pretend to have students communicate and to have students go to on their own pace and to have students enjoy classes, to have students get interested on the classes, but schools have traditional policies and systems. What I mean by that is that schools have the same way to teach, the same methodologies, like all students in the same class have to follow the instructions at the same time and do the same and are scored by using, for example, multiple choice questions, etc. Right? So what I found out in your diary, Christian, is that you notice that and you are wondering about the methodology that will be the best one to let students or help students learn on their own pace, at their own pace.
What I see, Diana, is I've been there now. Well, for example, I've been in fourth grade now for 3 years. Most of the time I was in high school, so I was moved to primary, and it's been kind of complicated. I have 24 kids, and out of those 24 kids, there's like 3 kids that are very low level, and to advance is not that easy. It would be great like if everybody advanced at the same time, but it's not. We cannot do that. We have to help the low. It's not to help. It's to make it more like I don't know, understand and have them as a group. You see, it's like the whole group has to get there, but it's not easy. So that's what I wrote these possible research questions. Like number one, what teaching strategies can a teacher use to deal with low paid students? And we're getting into this AB, how to say this, into
System.
this, yeah, and it's not, but as a teacher, we have to find a solution. For me, if a student doesn't learn, it's 100% teacher's fault. That's me. So a teacher has to be there always for those kids.
Okay, well, Christian, you were not the only one who wrote in the diary the problem that you notice that you have students that have different levels in the same classroom.
Exactly.
So it's completely normal.
It is, yeah, I know.
It's like if we wanted to have all the students behave the same way and be just one. It's not possible. Everybody has different interests. And maybe you have heard about new school works or teaching and learning by projects, which is
That's what we do here. In our school, we have teaching for understanding. So
mhm.
it's by doing those little projects each semester, it's much better for them.
Well, but what you describe in the diary don't match completely the school's what the school wants to do. Like if they want students to work on projects, is because um students should be able to decide on the topic they want to research and go and do it in groups, let's say, but not everybody's going to learn about the same topic. And
Exactly.
not everybody's going to learn about the verb to be at the same time or the past tense at the same time. So if a school decides to work on projects, it's because it's going to give the students more opportunity to make decisions. And it's a way, I mean, it's necessary to change the whole system. So a school cannot pretend to have projects and have a assessment based on multiple choice questions. That's not coherent. So
And and what we have here is, for example, every year fourth grade students take this Cambridge exam. So they take they take language, science, and math. And those exams are not easy. So that's why we train them every single year. For example, in language class, they have to write one fiction piece and a non-fiction piece outline, and that's not easy. And so that's what we do every day. Train them for that.
Train students to take a test. But
In,
your
in
concern is about differences
my
regarding
low pace students, that's my concern.
exactly low-pay
Yeah,
students, different learning styles, which is very normal. Uh, differences
their
in
attitude.
attitudes,
Exactly.
low-pay students and good students. So, well, their attitude will vary if the topic you are teaching is not interesting for all of them, which is normal. So, if
Exactly.
we are teaching, let's say, past simple by asking the students to think about their last vacation, which is very common, not all of them will feel interested in talking about that topic, but maybe they're interested in um, knowing about science or maths or arts and learn through those other um, subjects, learn the language through other subjects, or find or to try to find out the solution to a problem, or to uh, research about something they are interested, like for example, um,
Well, actually, the idea is for to find like a motivation for them.
exactly. So not everybody is motivated by the same topics. So no, that's why there are different learning styles, different pace, different attitudes in classes. Here you have what is the performance of students when the teacher uses technology. Okay,
It's wonderful. Yeah,
this about technology is also something common with some of your classmates.
I found a lot of similar things with Andres and Nicolas because I read their diaries. I found them very good too, and I found like very common things. So
Mhm, that's
I think they work too in bilingual schools, right, Nick and Andres? I don't know. That's what I think. Yeah. So I found a lot of similarities there.
yeah. I read that's well. Some of you work for immersion schools, so and are interested in the same topics as technology, the use of technology. Uh, have here what is the attitude of students regarding interaction inside and outside the classroom? Okay.
That's I wrote that one because I have a lot of like very shy kids that they feel better like in the outside than being like in the classroom. So I try to teach my classrooms, not all my classes, not all of them, like in the inside of the class, but I try to take them out under a tree, read a book, um, find something like a different environment for them, and it's been helping out greatly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh, well, something I need to say for everybody is that it's important when we choose a question, it's important to find out if it is possible to make a research in that context. Sometimes we have identified a problem, we have the research question, but then when we ask for permission to collect data to video
yeah.
record students or to audio record students, the school says it's not possible. So that's also important that you have that in mind from the beginning. Uh, as I told you, you will have to work when you get to teacher practicum one. You will have to work in groups of 3 or 4 to research, and so it's important if you from now you know if it is possible to carry out a research in your context.
I already talked to the school, and they're have doors open. They said it's okay, Chris. Go ahead and do whatever you need. We'll give it to you. So
Okay, great.
yeah.
Well, so in your case, Christian, we detected like the three first questions are related to methodology. Question 4 will be addressed about technology, and it will be necessary like to choose a specific uh, uh, let's say, a specific IC tool or specific program or platform that you would like to use in order to find out what is the impact of that
Okay.
platform or tool when students learn English. In case of interaction, it will be if you are interested in interaction, will be like to describe uh, students' interactions. I'm sorry, give me just a second. I'm sorry, I'm back. Well, in case of interaction, it will be like to describe a student's interaction and see if those who interact less uh, have a difference regarding learning or the development of speaking than those that interact more. It would be something like that, I
Okay.
guess.
All right. Okay.
Good.
But I think the first three will be like the most interesting ones.
But in that case, you will need to find out if it is possible that you change. Um, if you focus only on projects in your classes, and that is not a problem. So it will be necessary not to use books, not to use the assessment, the traditional assessment procedures, and to use only project-based learning and see if it works.
If it works. Okay.
Uh-huh. Good. So who wants to be next?
I can go next.
Good, Andres. Andres. Okay. So you also work in an immersion school, right, Andres?
Yes. So this year I started working at a new school, Gimnasio Los Arrayanes Bilingüe. I worked previously also an immersion school that was smaller. I worked there for 7 years, and this year I started here. But here I have like a mixed job. I mean, I'm between management things and teaching, so I have to do both like types of things. So basically that's what I do. But in general, the questions that I asked are things that I've seen consistent from from where I worked before and where I work now. So that's something that I've seen that happens continuously. So it's not just on this school, because in this school I've been since January. So I'm just getting to know the school basically.
All right. But if we look at your first two questions, they are, I mean, your interest and your concerns are similar to Christians. You wonder about different learning styles. You
Yeah.
wonder about different ways to assess students in an effective way. Number three says, what effect does incorporating the students' skills and interests have on the acquisition of an L2? So again, incorporating students' interests. Number four, what difficulties do English teacher encounter when trying to
Teachers.
implement a certain constructivist teaching approach? Okay.
Well, here the thing is that in the school they also have teaching for understanding,
Mhm.
and while we were like in the training part of the introduction, the induction to the school, they all the time spoke about constructivism and projects and all those types of things. But part of the things that I have to do in my job is that I have to visit other teachers' classes. And what I've seen is that I had to visit in the first term like 16 classes, and of the 16 classes I visited, uh, 12 or 13 were working on a book, or I mean nothing that has to do with what they are asked to do. So uh, basically that question is, why do teachers end up doing something different that what, even if the school says that they're supposed to do something different, why do teachers end up doing a traditional or having a traditional English class? Because basically you go to the classes and they are most of the time working in books, in notebooks, filling out
That's boring.
well, traditional. And in the second question is the same thing. What Christian was saying, that they assess them and they have like bi-monthly exam, and they are presenting international exams, and that's like the assessment. So my question is also like, is that the most effective way to assess and the English progress? Like just filling out exams, most of them multiple choice exams. Is that the best way to assess the progress in English?
Okay. So
Or if you can assess it another way?
again, in your
Sorry.
context, happens something similar to what happens in Christian's context, and is that what the school expects is not what is happening in the classrooms,
Mm-hmm.
and there could be, well, then we can start thinking about hypotheses. Why? One hypothesis could be that teachers are not trained to use other methodologies different to the traditional ones. A second strategy could be that although teachers know different methodologies, they have beliefs about what works best, and for them, what works best is the traditional methodology. So it could be a
Mm-hmm.
problem of beliefs, it could be a problem of knowledge or training.
But
Mm.
the other one, and that's why I wrote question 5, is that the school has a management system, like an ISO management system, and they have to fill out a lot of reports and a lot of like progress reports and forms and a bunch of things, and we get audited first internally and then externally during the year. And if teachers haven't complied with the program and with certain things, uh, well, it's going to be a problem. So a lot of times it's also teachers end up doing that. It's like another hypothesis, if you like. Teachers end up
Yeah,
doing that, and students end up doing that just because the system of the school forces them. Even though the school talks about one thing, the system forces them to end up doing the traditional way, because they have to fill out the books, they have to fill out the this and fill out the forms and fill out the reports, and
exactly.
maybe another approach is going to be difficult to fill out in that super structured way.
Okay, that's a good one. So, a research question could be, what is what are teachers could be what are teachers' opinion about the coherence between schools' policies and the the school's mission and the school's policies or organization or structure of
Hmm.
uh, teaching and assessing, something like
Yes.
that. Yes, so that's a third hypothesis. Um, as you mentioned in your diary, so we cannot forget about um, that we deal with human beings, which means
Yeah.
that we can not only think about a good methodology and forget about s- that we are in front of people who have different needs and feelings and etc. So that even if I know about methodologies and I apply them and I follow some steps, uh, that day my students are not in the mood of doing anything. So I have
Yeah.
to do something different. So
No, or
it
even
cannot be like that we just um, get knowledge on the technical parts, methodologies, and we forget about the interaction between teacher and students, which is something that is important and is key, right?
and even a problem that they have, or that I've noticed, is that, for example, because they are going to be audited and they have to like in their notebooks they have to be like the day-to-day progress and whatever. If, for example, the head teacher of a classroom has an issue, I don't know, in the break, two students fought and hit each other, and the classroom is divided and whatever, and the teacher sees the need to maybe not give what he had planned that day, but use that hour to fix the problem or to talk or to reflect on what happened or whatever, then it's going to be a problem because they're going to say, okay, on uh, this day, why didn't you give the class? You have a program, you have to fill out the program, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the question is, okay, but the school is not only getting some information, also you are being you have to uh, uh, think about the person, and if the student needs I mean those spaces in which you also reflect about what is happening and about an issue, it's also the what the school has to do. I mean, school not only needs to teach a program, it also has to teach how to be a good person, I think. So that's also a problem that I see with this superstructure that the school has.
Okay, what you just said makes me think about issues that needs to be taken into account in order to implement. You said that is learning. What is the philosophy of the school? Learning
Teaching for
for
understanding.
for
Teacher
understanding.
for understanding. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that well, this question actually we can find the answer in a book. It could be like what are the tensions that teachers find out when they try to implement teaching for understanding.
Mhm.
Yes, so you will find out in a book that in order to implement teaching for understanding, it is necessary to have small groups, to be flexible, to work with project-based learning, etc. Then you can interview teachers and find out how easily they find out to do that. I mean, to work with projects, to be flexible. Is there any way to be flexible with the
Mhm.
policies that the school has? So that could
Yeah.
be,
And maybe that's a little bit easier because you don't have to. I mean, you will focus on teachers, not students. No.
yeah, yes, because if you were, if you have a research with students, you need to ask for parents' permission and the school's permission. If you work with
Hmm.
teachers, so it will be just the school and teachers will say yes.
Yeah.
I would say it's easier because for this question, you are not wondering if they are doing well or not their job. You are trying to find out if there is any way, if there is any tension, if there is any difficulty, um, in order to make suggestions on how to work on those tensions.
Yeah.
Well, good. Thank you, Andres. Who wants to be
Okay.
next?
Teacher, I'll go.
George. Okay.
All right, Nikki.
Let's see.
All right. So, I'm currently working as an English teacher for I wouldn't say bilingual school, but they're working towards getting a national certification. And yeah, just read what you just wrote there. Feel frustrated, and that's what I've been feeling lately because it feels like no matter what you do, it's very hard to get in the kids, um, like the attitude of the kids. It feels like I bring games, I bring technology, I bring all sorts of you know. And
Nicholas, we can't hear you.
His stream like froze.
Yes. So let's wait 1 second or and see if it works.
I think it's his internet that is not working.
Yeah, well, yes, he's off. Okay, so while he goes back, I would like to listen to other student. Well, it's important to Maria Fernanda. It's also important to say that those of you who are not teaching or who don't have a lot of experience in teaching, you can like think about some topics that are of your interest and see if you can start working with that classmate. Okay, Nicholas, you are back.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so the school is trying to make a difference, but I feel that they don't know exactly what they want. So they're kind of trying their best to find out what is the best way to make these kids enjoy English. And it's been very hard because the school has certain policies, like I explained in my diary. The school, we're not allowed to give like homework or school housework or extra work, because they say the kids get too tired, they get home too tired, the timetable for the kids is too long, you know. So I feel that the kids don't practice enough, and that makes like it's very hard for us to teach, because I mean you teach certain things and then the next week you ask them about it and then they completely lost. So it feels like you always start from zero every week, every week the same thing, and it feels it's very frustrated, to be honest. And I want to really find ways to make it work, you know. So that's why my first question, for example, the school is, I don't know, they're very keen on standardized tests. They do like 3 mock tests every term, you know, because they're preparing kids for the ICFES, you know. And then we have kids in third grade doing 3 or 4 hour long tests, multiple choice all the time, ABC, ABC, ABC. And when you ask the kids how was it, the kids say, "Oh, it was easy. No worries, teacher. That was too easy." But when you see the results, they're they're not very impressive, you know. And the kids, I know they're not understanding, they're not learning anything. But maybe the results, some kids will get good marks, but the school will say, "Okay, we have 5 kids with a good level in third grade." But that's a lie, you know, because I see them every day and the level is not there. So I think for me that's one of the most important things. I made those questions so I can talk to the principal and say, okay, look, I made this research. I'm doing some investigations. I'm trying to get information to show you that this is not the way to go, you know, because they keep thinking that that's the best way to do it, and I really don't think so. So
Well, you wrote in your diary that you have your students work on some intercultural projects, which is in the case that you wrote was about third grade students talking about one state,
yeah,
right?
correct, correct.
So you wrote that you found some students didn't understand that making mistakes was part of the process.
Yeah,
Um, but again, is contradictory to the way they are assessed. They are assessed with multiple choice questions in which they have to either, I mean, they need to choose the correct answer. If they were assessed with oral presentations and with their, if the teacher assess or the school decided to assess students' ability to present information, explain a topic, um, communicative abilities, it will be different. But on one hand, students are working on projects and on oral presentations, and on the other hand, they are assessed with multiple choice tests. So
Yeah,
that's not coherent.
correct. And the other thing is, yeah, we also have that philosophy, the teaching for understanding, and we do a lot of projects and stuff like that. But then there are too many projects, you know. So the kid at the end of the day, for the English project, what they do is Google economy in Kansas, for example. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
they learn or they memorize 5 or 6 lines, and they just repeat it. But
But
again,
who's in charge of choosing the topic of the project?
they
The teacher?
coordinate. They
Well,
coordinate.
no, cannot be that way. So the student needs to be the one who chooses the topic they want to research.
Exactly. And yeah, because if, like I said before, if you like a certain topic, I'm sure you will try to find more information, and you will feel like, you know, like you want to talk about it for a long time. But they make us do those little projects, and they're just pointless, to be honest. It's just to show, and that's the other thing, because the school is now trying to get a certification, and to get that certification, you need to kind of take many items. Yeah, like one of them is like intercultural projects and stuff like that. So the coordinator is always making us taking pictures, like an evidence, you know. So we have that on paper, but there's nothing inside. Like it's just for show, basically, you know. That's why it is very hard, and I don't see any improvement whatsoever. The attitude in the kids is getting better, because I try to bring games and music and stuff like that. The kids like English now more than they used to before, but in terms of what they're actually learning, I don't think we're making any progress. Well, I don't feel like we're making them progress.
Well, I think it would be interesting to read more about teaching for understanding or learning for understanding. Found out what are the principles, what are uh, the way to implement that, and because if you're going to, in your case that you said that you want to talk to the dean and tell the person that something is not working there, uh, you need to know very well about teaching for understanding and see what is not matching with what the school is doing. That will be one thing. Um, well, but you also wrote about students feeling frustrated, students' lack of awareness about the importance of learning a language. So you are also interested on uh, students' emotions also, how they deal with frustration. So it could be also their topic of research in the classroom. But I found a commonality between your case, Christian's context, and Andres' context. So probably you could find like a way to work on that, which is all of you mentioned teaching for understanding. So it could be good to research more about that and see if in any of the contexts or in the three contexts, uh, it could be possible to find out what is the mismatch between teaching for understanding and the school's policies,
No,
like a
it would
start.
be it would be interesting. Yeah, I think that would be the great a perfect start.
It could be so. With the classes and with the readings, you will see all the stages that are necessary to carry out the research and to decide on the well, on the topic, on the objectives, on the stages, on the data that is necessary to collect, how to analyze it to get to some conclusions. So we will see that later in the course. Okay, good. Thank you, George. Then Maria Fernanda, you raise your hand.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so could you please
Can
tell
you
us
hear me
about?
well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So a short context of my school. I'm currently teaching fourth grade in a bilingual school in Bogota. It is also a heterogeneous classroom because we have different levels of performance of the language. I can have kids from A1 through B2. Similar to what Nicolas was saying, we cannot assign homework since the kids leave school at 4 p.m. So there are some students that are arriving home at at 5 or even 6 p.m. But we do try to have them make the habit or gain the habit of working at home daily, practice and try to be exposed to the language as much as they can. What else? Our students have also taken standardized tests before, but just like as an indicator for the school to see where they are. It's not something that they do frequently, and actually we have now done it like for a year or so. What else do? We are an IB school. We work through units of inquiry, and that is directly designed based on the students' interests. So that is also something that is directly related to their performance, because if it's something that is going to call their attention, that is designed for their age range as well, it's something that motivates them to learn and to participate and get involved. And since we work with the PYP, which is the primary year program, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but we, as a teacher of a class, we get to teach them the four bilingual subjects, that is science, socials, maths, and language. So we get to like support and how do you say that? Support and go with the students throughout the year and seeing their progress like more firsthand than if I were just a language teacher per se. So we get to teach the language and the content through the language. So I think that's an advantage of being able to teach them four classes to just one group. Yes. And well, that's mainly it. So yes, those were my questions. But I can see only three. Or
Here we
no,
have,
the five are there. I'm sorry.
yeah. Well, you wrote how to provide a class environment that will suit the learning needs of those in special needs conditions, because you wrote in your diary that you have twins who have an illness, hypoxia ischemia,
Uh-huh.
and so they have a special need, and so you want to know how to deal with that condition.
Okay, yes. This case in particular, it's for a Saturday class that we have. Those kids are not regular students of the school, but they are siblings of one student who is. And I have them every Saturday. But yes, it was the first time that I was faced with a situation like this. And of course, we as teachers, we need to be prepared to see how we can um, supply or not supply, how to give them the necessary and the proper tools so that we can supply those special needs.
Right. Didier, your classmate Didier, is also interested in working or researching about how to help those students who have a disability, how to help them to learn. So it could be nice if you get to decide on that topic. It could be nice to work with Didier because he he would like to read about that. And research needs a lot of reading. So once you choose a topic, you need to read a lot about that. So it needs to be something that interests you.
Yeah,
And
plus I know that that issue would involve many other areas of knowledge. I mean, like psychology and inclusion and differentiation. I mean, it's I think it's broad. I love.
yes, but it's also important to know or to mention that like the what is going to happen in the future if the law is not changed is that there will be more students with disabilities in the schools uh, where there are the majority of students are students with no with any uh, any condition different any different condition. So it
Hmm.
will be necessary to know how to deal with those cases so we can help all those students as well as the students that we usually have.
Yeah, at school we may have some students who have hearing disabilities, but nothing like this situation that I mentioned here.
So it means that those students have problems too in their muscles,
In their what? Sorry.
in their muscles. What is
Oh,
exactly the
yeah.
problem?
That situation is when they don't get to breathe at the moment that they are born, that their brain lacks oxygen at the moment that they are born. So it affects their whole developmental process, just as I mentioned there. Uh, of course, they can walk, they can move, they can interact, but it's limited. For example, more the speaking skills they speak with or we it's very difficult to understand what they are trying to say.
Okay, but is a cognitive and a motor impairment?
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
okay.
And I actually, since the first day that I met them, that I had class with them, I contacted their parents and I asked them if they had gone through any therapy, if there was like any official document from a therapist or something that I could see and have as a guide on how to work with them. You know, at any moment, of course, we didn't want just to tell them, I'm sorry, you won't be able to participate of the class. It's just, okay, perfect, you're welcome, but let me see what can I learn, what can I do so that I can offer you the best experience possible,
Yeah, I
right?
understand. What happens in our country is that laws are made and then teachers are trained. So the law is that students that have some impairment can be or need to be with other students that don't have any impairment. But
Uh-huh.
then the problem is, I say the problem because if we are not trained in advance, so the one who needs to find out how to deal with those situations is the teacher.
Exactly.
If we are not, if we don't have the knowledge on how to deal with those situations before the law is made, so then what we do is to try to solve the problem on the way, right?
Exactly.
So that's what happens here in our country. Laws are made first, and then we need to find out how to deal with the law. Which,
Hmm.
I mean, uh, of course, it's gonna be beneficial for the students that have the impairment, but we need a lot of support, as you mentioned, from other professionals, the psychologists, the therapists, etc. But it
Hmm.
could be a good question or a good research question to find out um, if by working on different strategies, students that have those problems get to learn more than they learned before they had those help, those aids.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, well,
Okay.
then you have, how can students identify strategies that were better for them to enhance their own understanding?
Yes, that was based on metacognition,
Right.
the one of the skills, thinking skills that we should develop as learners. We should develop so to try to identify how we learn best in the best way. So they should, students should identify their strengths, what improves their learning, like what environment around them, for example, at the moment of studying, or just the techniques. If they're visual learners, if they need to repeat, if they need to draw, write, and the opposite, what interferes with their learning. So that is something that we work also with them. We work under the 5 skills, which is communication, socials, thinking, research, and there's one that I cannot remember at this moment. But anyway, under the thinking skills, there's that sub skill per se, which is metacognition, and is how they can, I mean, it's learning how to learn, basically. And of course, once they get to identify those issues, their learning improves.
Good. So
That
one,
deals with also with lots of reflection on what they do and how to do it, what to change, how to improve. And once they see that they are improving, then they work faster per se in that process.
okay. In your case, you know that that is called metacognition, and there are metacognitive strategies. So the question, if you decide to uh, work on that, is the question could be the impact. What is the impact of using those metacognitive strategies?
Okay, okay, I'm writing. Good.
On students' learning. We cannot say in a question that that's going to enhance students' learning because we don't know. What we need to
Okay.
research is if it works. So we need to find out the impact, and we need to find out the different metacognitive strategies and use them in the classroom, and then we need to either measure students' learning or just ask students' opinions about their their learning. Because in
Okay.
research we can have qualitative or quantitative approaches. It means that
Yes.
we can measure or we can describe. Usually what we do is to describe because since we work with humans, it doesn't have a lot of sense that we measure, and because when we measure we are saying that everything is going to happen the same if we use a similar context and we do the similar steps, and we're going to find the similar results. So it happens that probably I use the same cognitive metacognitive strategies in other group of students in a different school, but they don't work the same because
Uh-huh.
as we are humans, we react in different ways. So that's why what happens usually on education is that we describe what is going on and ask the participants for their opinions. What is their opinion about using those metacognitive strategies when learning? Did they learn? Did they feel they learn or not? Or if we have some let's say artifacts like um, let's say exams, we can find out if they are doing well on the exams. We can
Mm-hmm.
compare, for example, we can compare two different courses and say,
Previous results. Mm-hmm.
or yes, previous learning with metacognitive strategies and learning after using the strategies and compare. That could be. Okay, then you
Okay.
have which factors interfere with students' motivation towards learning. Okay, again,
Yes,
motivation here.
I thought about that one since, we're teaching them, but at the same time, I mean, in my case, being a self-contained teacher, I am with my kids almost all day, every day of the class, of school, and it's also dealing with their emotions, with their family situations, family context, uh, differences that may come up in their relationships with their classmates, with other teachers. So it's not only being there in the classroom, paying attention, participating, and understanding, but everything that is happening around them that are going to affect their learning. So I was thinking about family situations, whether it's the relationship between parents, a difficult relationship with a sibling, or economic situations, difficulties, maybe an illness, and anything that is related to their emotions.
Okay, well, look at this question. If you ask which factors interfere, you can find the answer in a book. You can find different factors that affect learning. And you find that students have some uh, inner motivation and outer motivation. And so there are also some aspects regarding personality and their home and their likes, but also other aspects regarding what is going on in the classroom as methodologies, as topics, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
that is something that can be read in a book. So in order to change that, you need to find out to think about a specific context and see and ask a question like what are the students uh, let's say inner motivations, or what are um, home issues that the students describe as important aspects they they need to deal with, or something like that. So I mean, it's to change the question so that you don't find the answer in the book, but you think about the context that you are going to address. So a specific group of students that you have identified that have problems at home. So you want to find out how much is that affecting their learning.
Okay, I understand.
Well, then you have how can students promote their peers' class participation. Again, the question will be like, what is the impact of having students working in groups uh, on students' learning, for example? Or what are the students' interests with working in groups that promote interaction and participation?
Okay, that one um, came from observing that whenever we're in class, we celebrate students' participation or students' advances in their performance, and we do something super simple, but we just clap like in a in a specific way, and then they yell at the end like "Great job!" But you can see the students' faces, plus those students who don't regularly participate, or that maybe they don't participate accurately most of the times, when they get to provide a great answer or a great contribution for a class, and they get that celebrating thingy, they their faces, they just change. They feel even more motivated. They feel like, yes, I'm trying harder and I'm seeing the results. I don't know. So uh, being able to have their own peers celebrate their progress, it's indeed something that is going to promote their participation even more.
Okay, so in that case, you could think about positive feedback. So, what is the impact of using positive feedback in the classroom? So, you will ask students, or you will compare students. Well, you could compare the students' participation into groups. One in which positive feedback is being promoted, not only by the teacher but also with this by the all the class, and in other group where there is no any focus on positive feedback,
Okay.
and see if the participation is higher in one group or the other. It could be okay.
Okay.
So you have different topics. So motivation, I mean students, problems of the students at home, positive feedback, metacognitive strategies, use of metacognitive strategies, how to provide a class environment that will suit the learning needs of those. Okay, students with special conditions.
Hmm.
Well, so again, the idea is that you think about if it is possible to carry out a research in the place where you work, and see if there is any classmate that is have same interests as you, as the ones that you have, to start working together.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Who wants to be next?
Me, teacher.
Freddie. Hello.
Hello, teacher. Good evening, and good evening, everybody. So, I am a police officer. I know that the police arrested people who committed crimes, but I admire you, your experience, and else that establish some structure with a teaching English. So, but according with the material that the teacher let us. At this course, we saw about question problems at first, in the second way verbs and hypotheses. According to Dr. Garidin explanation, it was interesting, so interesting, but how to get the best results in the students. So I know that the important way, the most important way, is to know that students need to understand all contexts. According to the English, what is the best way to learning? What is the best way to reading, to listening? uh, Different ways, but in my concern, there are different ways according to creativity that could help to the students get acquaintance, get a good knowledge. Go over the topics of the course and let the students know how your course connects with others in the discipline. The teachers must be able to be ready to answer questions and exams, and recommend to all the students some alternatives to get good knowledge, and say the same alternatives to get a good reading. So um, I don't know, according to the question that the teacher will let me.
Well, since you are not a teacher, Freddie, but you're a policeman, anyway, you can think about your own experience as a student. So if you have found any problem when learning in this virtual modality, So you can think about how to solve the problem that you identify in the context you are as a student in a virtual modality. So that could be because, as you mentioned, the idea is to identify the problem in a context and try to find out how to solve the problem or describe it, yes, or understand it first. Understand what is going on, why the problem is originated, is generated, and then if we understand the reason why it is happening, we can make some suggestions about how to solve the problem. So, as I said, in your case, it could be that you think about your own role as a student in a virtual modality and the problems you might have encountered during your studies during
Yeah,
in,
teacher. So, according to your asking, I guess that the most important part these virtual encounters and this virtual course is to reading, is to know the best part of it is life is to know and learning all that we want to know. So according with that, I remember when I was a student at the school, when the teacher explained all the students according to theory and different practices that weren't the best way to get a best knowledge in the students' minds. So I consider that those virtual courses could get to the students the capacity to know and understand based on reading courses, reading practices, is the best part to improve to get a best knowledge in us. So at first, but according to Maria Fernanda, our classmates at this one, metacognition is an interesting part to this acknowledge to acquaintance to get the best ways, the best things to know in a future for teaching to different students. But we need to accept different situations on these people at this country, poor people, rich people. So we need to know and study different contexts to know and get the best way to know different speakings. So
well, you mentioned metacognition, Freddie. So if you are interested in that topic, and Maria Fernanda uh, fa- Maria Fernanda finds out that she can research and she's interested in working on that topic, you could probably help in to carry out a research in her context because she is working in a place where probably she can in the future she can collect data. So the idea is that by listening to your classmates, you can also decide on the topic that you would like to read about more, so you can help other classmates to carry out a research. As I mentioned at the beginning of the encounter, you will be asked to work in groups of 3 or 4 when you get to teacher practicum 1 to start writing the research document that you are required to graduate. So in your case, if you since you are not working as a teacher, that's not a problem because you can work with other classmates to start a research. But
yeah, teacher.
the idea of these encounters is like to clarify the steps and the parts of the research document and the steps of a research. That's the idea.
Okay, teacher. Yes, and yeah, I can touch different contests that our classmates have, and according to the Jorge explanation, Jorge Nicolas, he touches about follow the policies are so hard. I I agree with him. So because in different way, different colleges and schools are so difficult to follow policies because the most important part is to know English, to know the four focus that are listening, reading, speaking, and, and writing. So that are those are the most important ways. And
So, something important, Freddie, is, for example, to notice that the problems identified in the different contexts, uh, if we compare Maria Fernanda's school, the place where she works, with the place where Andres works, the problem is different. So in the place where Andres works, the thing is that there is a mismatch between the policy and what the teachers have to do. I think that's the problem. In
yes,
Maria Fernanda's context, the problem is that one of the problems is that she has to deal with impaired, with students that have some special needs, but also she needs to work on metacognition, and she needs to start implementing that and see if it works or how well it works. So you see the problems are different. So the idea is that once we have a context where we can research, we can identify a problem, and then we can describe why the problem is happening or suggest a solution,
yes, teacher.
right?
So I remember one course at this bachelor. One teacher touches one topic about Julián de Subiría. Uh, is one of the best teachers that I have known. But I agree with him according to know all people with values and principles are so important. But it's important to know that different subjects could get a good knowledge to the students. According with him, he guesses that just the strategy to know values and principles uh, the first step to know to all people, and not to know different subjects. So I consider that we need to know at first, yes, the values and else, but it's so important to improve our English, to improve our knowledge, and know more things this life.
Good. In your case, Freddie, it is important that you have identified the topics of your interest. So you are interested in on reading about metacognition and reading about how to teach values or promote values. So if one classmate that is teaching at a school is interested in those topics, so you could talk to him or her uh, to start thinking about a possible research for next semester. Because in this course we clarify the doubts, but you start the research next semester when you get to teacher practicum one, right?
Okay, teacher.
Okay,
Right.
thank you, Freddie. Well,
Thank you,
uh,
teacher.
there is no time today to listen to all of you, but we can continue next week. But before we finish the encounter, I would like to know if you have questions about the course or the tasks. We can continue about this, or we are going to continue with this exercise next week because we haven't heard Clara, we haven't heard George and Magda, Didier and Gerson. So it's necessary to listen to their ideas. next week.
I actually do have a question that is just of organization. I wanted to ask: is it possible to have the class not at 6:30 but at 7? Is it impossible?
Well, I have to start other encounter at 8, so
Okay.
it's not
No worries.
possible.
Okay, no worries. It's just that on Tuesdays I have to work late, so I have to run a lot. But I just wanted to know. Don't worry.
Okay.
Andres, just run faster, Andres. Okay, brother.
Yeah. There are a lot of blocks between my house and the school.
All right, brother. Well,
Okay, does anybody have any question about the tasks?
we find well, actually, me, I find it very interesting. I think I'm gonna be learning a lot. So I find everything perfect. Diana,
No
thank you
questions so
very
far.
much.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining the counter. I need to stop the counter because I need to start a new one, and then I need to prepare the information that I need to present or to visualize. So,
Okay.
Okay,
no more
thank you,
questions,
Diana.
everybody? No? Good. So we will meet next week.
Okay.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Okay.
You should have a nice rest.
Much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Thank you, Diana.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.